Hi, I'm Linda Deir, and this
And I'm Ray Holley, Linda's husband and business partner.
and partner in everything that I do. I couldn't do it without Ray. I wouldn't do it without Ray. All
And
right.
publisher.
You are, Ray. He's amazing, this guy here. In part 4 of Guided, the happily ever after.
That's right. Part 4 of Guide is where she meets me and lives happily ever after.
How about you? Did you live happily?
I did.
Or are?
I'm living the dream here.
You guys. Today, we're going to talk about My Guided Journey. My Guided Journey is the companion journal to my flagship book, Guided. The reason this was written is because of the readers of Guided asking me questions about how they make contact with their own spirit guides and angels, how they get over the fears that have controlled their life, how they learn to ask, all right? So we've got someone coming in tonight that we're pretty sure is going to show up.
Not yet.
But she's got some questions about all this, and she's listened to Guided, and she got the journal, and she's worked on the journal, and she really wants to make some ground with all this. So over the last 20 weeks, Ray and I have done videos each Thursday, same place, same time, right here on Facebook Live. And we have covered what's the meat and potatoes, which is really part 2, the journey part of the journal, where you go back to the beginning of your life, just like I did when I wrote my book and explained to you guys how this works, all right? And take you back to the beginning. I have a memory that's amazing, and it's all because of my guides that I have this memory, that I'm able to make this contact, that I'm able to convey step by step what happened in my life from living it. Actually, as a child, from surviving it, from the abusive upbringing I came up in. So it turned out to be a good thing in the sense that it's helping other people now. Yeah. So
You can't teach it unless you live it.
yeah, you really don't know what you're talking about until you've walked through it, you know. And we've all walked through it, you guys. You just may not remember it, and you may not want to remember some of it, but once you go back there and you look it in the eye, and on the website, on the Linda Deir website, lindadeir.com, where you go to the blog at the top, the navigation bars, click on blog, and go to the blog page, and on the right side, it underneath categories is a category called My Guided Journey. And under that category are all the videos that Ray and I have done over the past 20 weeks that take you through the process of part 2, page 1 through 18. So you can actually achieve what you need to do on those pages to get right down to where you got knocked off course. Okay, so that's really what I was going to read earlier tonight, Ray, but that covers it right there, all right?
Okay.
Okay. So, what do we have, Ray?
Well, tell them a little bit about part 2. The first thing that you encounter in the journal is entitled what?
Fear.
Fear. A lot of people who got the journal and started to work through it as we did the weekly videos. When we were 5 or 6 weeks into it, some of them came back and said, you know, I'm really haven't caught up to where you are now because I got stuck back at the first one, fear. That was the toughest one for a lot of people to tackle.
Right. Ray's right. That is when we, you know, the guides, when the journal was written, when I wrote the journal after Guided was written, the guides told me that the journal is going to be a work in progress. We're going to put it on the website as a free download. This is available on the Linda Deir website as a free download. Right on the homepage on the right side, you'll see My Guided Journey. There's a little video there, like a 3-minute video, and it says free download. So be sure to get this right there on the homepage. But the guides said, we don't want this on Amazon. We want this on the website where people can get it for free, because what they call this is a work in progress. And Ray and I didn't even realize after I was done writing this and made it available, and we had hundreds of people download it, that after that we started doing these videos each week on part 2.
Right.
And going back to what Ray mentioned about the first page of part 2, page 1 through 18, 1 is fear. Until we got to, I don't know, page 4 or 5 or 6,
Right.
we started getting feedback from people who were joining us on Thursdays and said, I want to do the journal, but I can't get past page 1.
I'm stuck.
I'm stuck. I know I need to start from the beginning, but I can't seem to start from the beginning. I can't remember it. I blocked it out. What I do remember is I don't want to think about it again or whatever. So that's when we figured out, again, it's a work in progress. The guides told us it was a work in progress, and it has turned out that way. And so what we realized from that is people have felt, for you, last week when we did where Ray took the journey.
Oh, well, you got to ask me questions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And what page was it that you started writing in that it just started to flow?
It was around 8 or 10.
No, 14.
14.
It was page 14.
Page 14.
So page 14, there's only 18 pages in part 2. It took Ray all the way up to 14 for him to be triggered.
To go back.
To go through 18.
Right, and then go backwards from 14
back to 1.
back to 1.
Okay, so he went from 14 to 18, and then he leaped back to 1 because. Explain why, Ray. You explained it last week, but why?
Well, I think fear is a tough one for everybody to start with.
It is
because,
but it is fear that it all starts out with.
It's
in our
fear
lives,
that knocks you off the course
right from the start.
And like you said, it may be something that you don't want to remember, that you've blocked out, that you can't remember.
I know,
because a lot of children can't remember what happened in their life till they get to be about 3 or 4.
Right.
They don't really have anything. And they come in without anything to be fearful about.
Look at the camera, Ray, instead of, yeah.
I like talking to you.
I know you do, but you have to look up there where these guys are, okay?
A lot of children don't come into this life. Very few children come into this life with any fears. I mean, when is the first time that a baby experiences fear? They don't really have anything to be fearful about.
Well, the only time that happens where it doesn't make sense is when someone comes in with a past life phobia, a memory that where they panic. All of a sudden, you see them react, it doesn't even make sense. They've had no life experience to support that trauma that they're expressing, and so there's those occasions where you will see some people will bring it with them, and it's just so on the forefront for them to deal with in this lifetime, so important that they came in with it loud and clear, all right? And you could have some of those. If that's what it is, write it in part 2, page 1, on fear, whatever that was. Because that first fear that you remember is influencing your life to this day. You just don't really know what it is, realize what it is, until you write it into the journal. You really have to write it in there. You have to take it out of the ethers and plant it into this world so that you can begin to see it. You can see it instead of being victimized by it, stuck, like Ray said earlier.
I mean, when I went backwards in last week's video, when I went backwards, I discovered that my fear was fear of not being good enough.
Right.
And that's what knocked me off course for a lot of other things. And that happened when I started school.
Right.
You know.
That's right.
And there was a few things ahead of that where I had fears of going outside and, playing or riding my bike down the street because kids were bullies in my neighborhood. They were all bigger than me and older than me.
They were older than you.
Right.
That's why they were bigger than you, Ray.
Oh, is that why?
See how we forget those things?
I'm the same size they are now, though.
I know. Well, that's why they don't fool around with
Yeah, they
you.
don't pester me anymore. Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
So a baby really doesn't come in with a lot of fears unless they had a phobia
Right.
from a previous life, like they were afraid of dogs or afraid of water or something like that. But they come in with a fight or flight response. I mean, you didn't have any fears as a baby, but I mean, you ran away from home when you were 20 months old. That was a fight or flight response, right?
Right. That was a fight or flight response without reasoning,
Without thinking about it.
without thinking about it. Now,
That's animal instinct.
But it's not like I just ran away one day out of the blue sky. I had been faced with this situation that, in my case, it was my mom that just was, something was wrong with my mom.
Yeah.
And she was out of control. And when my dad went to work, she really lost it. That's when it was like, oh man, you could just, I remember the feeling like it was, the door would close, my dad would leave, I'd hear the truck drive away. He was in the construction business. And I remember feeling like, whoa, when's it going to start? And then the screaming would begin.
Yeah, for those who haven't read Guided,
Right.
tell them what was coming. It was horrible abuse. Her mother would abuse her every day.
Yeah, and it was the same pattern, exactly the same thing. And as I look back on it, that's just about the time my little brother was born. He was only a couple of months old at the time I ran away. And so my mom was under a lot of stress, a lot. I mean, I was 18 months old. She had a 4-year-old. Oh, no, my older brother was 5.5 years old, but he was in kindergarten, so he wasn't even there in the daytime. And then my little brother, which was an infant. So my mom was way over the top, overwhelmed, stressed, and no one to help her. We had no relatives or anybody around, so she had no help. And as a little kid, I didn't understand any of that. And then my dad went to work, and my dad looked at it like, you raise the kids, and I'll go to work. That was the way it was.
Well, your mom was a kid herself.
Yeah, well, early 20s.
Yeah, 20 years old, 21?
22.
22?
No, 22, 23, 23 and a half. Okay, when I was 20 months old.
Okay.
All right. So, those, you look back and you see from, this perspective, you can put yourself in their shoes and go, even if my mom was disturbed and did some awful things, I could still put myself in her shoes and go, well, you know what? I can see the stress she was under, and she didn't have any help. In the 50s, there was no help. You're on your own, fend for yourself. Families take care of their own business and everyone in it, So no wonder things were so dysfunctional, you guys. No wonder, you have some things that happened back there that didn't get the attention it needed so you could understand it. And so you made decisions really young that those decisions have been the same ever since, but you forgot where they even came from. You forgot when you even made them. You've just been kind of sputtering through your life, tolerating a lot of things.
That's a good word.
That have been less than a stellar life for you, because you missed it when you were little, and you missed it again. So one thing perpetuates another, and another, and another, and pretty soon you look at your life and go, it just, is this all there is? Is this real?
You got off course.
Yeah.
And okay, so let's go back. You come in, a baby comes in with a fight or flight response, and not necessarily any fears, unless they brought phobias with them from another life.
Right.
Okay, so you run away. You are afraid of your mother before you're 2.
For good reason.
Right.
It wasn't a phobia, it was a fact.
It was historical fact. I mean,
Yeah.
she abused you from the time you could remember.
So it was a knee-jerk reaction, knowing she was going to go off, and I'm kind of bracing myself, getting ready for, what do I do now? That type of thing.
So how'd you know to run away? How'd you get out of the yard?
Well, I saw my dog do it.
What would he do?
Well, he was a German Shepherd, and the side gate in the yard, he'd hit the gate and hit the gate and hit, and finally the latch would let go, and he'd run off, right? And I watched him do it, and I said, well, it was my only strategy, since I already saw someone else do something that looked like an exit plan, a way out.
That was his freedom, and you saw him do it a lot.
That was a way out. So I went out there and I shook the gate, and finally the gate latch opened just like I predicted it would, and I took off. Because that was the morning, that when I was 20 months old, it wasn't the first morning or the second or third or whatever. It was, I was way into it by then. I mean, way into it. I'm only 20 months old, but
it was your I've had it day.
It was I don't want to face this again. I need to go find my dad. And I ran in a direction where I was sure I was going to find him. I mean, I was absolutely sure. And I took off and went on the median of the expressway, and off I was running to find him in barefoot, in diapers, and a little snap-on white baby shirt.
I remember those.
Yep. And the police found me walking down the median of the expressway.
They don't see babies on the expressway every day, do they?
Nope. And they picked me up, and
what'd they ask you?
and they asked me, they said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to find my daddy. There's something wrong with my mommy." And that was it. That was it. So, when you're a little kid, you don't have things thought out. You're not coming from this world. You're more coming from the world you came from, which makes this world even harder, especially in the beginning, you guys. That's why it's hard, because we don't come from these conflicts. We don't come from fear. We come from love. We don't come from reasoning. We come from what we knew when we came here, So
okay,
that's how I bumped into it. That's how I could not remember it. My first fear I remember was around 20 months old. It really started with the merry-go-round dream I had for the first 35 years of my life. And that was when I really experienced my first fear, because the merry-go-round was so grim about how things worked out with the people in this world and what I was born into, what I saw, what I was being shown. So what happened with my mom happened a little bit after I could remember my first dreams. And these dreams, the reason I could remember them is I had them every night, the same exact dream. And it never changed. And no matter what I tried to do to make it, the dream was great. It was an awesome dream. And then all of a sudden, the people in the dream started to die. And I couldn't stop it. I couldn't make them see that what was really happening on this merry-go-round that we were all on was a good thing, that it was going to be great. Everything was working out great, but they didn't see it that way. And just like my mom didn't see this world as being great, she was angry and she was hostile and hurt, and we see so much of that now in our world. What happened? This is a great life. This is a great place, a great world. But people have interpreted it in such a way. Again, that's why I wrote this. It's about healing this, you guys. It's about going back to where this began and walking back through it. How could anyone else do this? I remembered it. I lived it. I could explain it. I wrote a book about it, And so that's what this is. So my feeling about it is, if we're going to heal the world, we got to heal ourselves first.
That's the whole thing. Walking backwards in this journal back to when you were a baby, a new person, and you find your first fear whenever it happened at 20 months old or at 3 years old or 5 years old, that's really could be something that held you back and made you make the wrong decisions all of your life. And once you identify that, that's where you can stop it.
That's the only way, Ray.
That's called what? Facing your fears.
It's called Facing Your Fears, so you can heal those wounds. And I do believe that the world is filled with this confusion. And nobody's really taken a look at this the way I have and brought it to the forefront like I have. And I mean, when I say I have, I mean that I was guided to do this, you guys. I was guided to write guided, and then I was guided to write this journal. And then they told me to make this a free download on the website so you guys could actually, there'd be no reason why you can't work it out and work through it. And then with Ray and I doing the videos for the last 20 weeks, you have every piece of support you need to take you through it, okay? To gently and truthfully take you through it and have results that make some sense to you, maybe for the first time in your life.
Okay, I have a question. How's fear different than doubts?
Well, okay, there's two things in this world. There's fear, and that's in this world. And there's love, and that's in the world you came from. That's who you are. That's what you brought with you. That's what you came in with as a new person, okay, into this life. Is you brought all that love, okay? And your expectations were high. You were the most optimistic person on the planet, okay? Until all this started and this chaos started. This, we come into this world and we came here on purpose. This was not an accident. And we came here to learn certain things. We knew before we came here that we could do this. We were sure of it. Until we got here. All right? And then all this hit us. And we're going, we're trying to wrap our brain around it. We're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to make friends with it. We're trying to, to negotiate with it. We're trying to get people to like us. We want to be liked. We want everyone else to be like each other. We're trying to make everything nice because that's where we came from. We came from a great place, a nice place, a loving place, okay? And we found ourselves in this conflict, in this chaos. How could that be?
It seems to start, a baby, a new person comes in without fear, with love, totally curious about everything. There's nothing that they can't do or learn or try.
Or have. Right.
Until they get to be 3-4 years old and everybody starts telling them what they can do and what they can't do and what they can think about.
What they're allowed.
What they're allowed to think about.
Right.
Who they can, oh no, you can't like that person. They're,
And there's so much of that now. The children who are being born now are faced with so many rules and regulations. It's tough. It's tough to be who you are in this world. You've got to have a real strong sense of who you are and where you came from. That's how you do it. And the way you find it is you go back to the beginning. Part 2, page 1 through 18. That's how it's done. But what you really need to do first, you guys, you need to get this book. I did the book in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook format. And I read the book myself. So nothing like the person who lived it. So once you read guided, you get the sense of it wakes things up in you so that then when you get this and you follow the videos we did, you can't miss. If you really want to heal that and you want to really live the life you came here to live, I mean, not the life that you defaulted into, but the one that you always knew something was missing. If you're feeling that, if that's where you're coming from, this will work for you.
Help me out on this fear and doubt thing, okay?
Yeah.
Aren't some fears really just doubts, or aren't doubts easier to deal with than fears? How are they different?
Well, doubt, okay, I was saying earlier, there's fear, and fear resides in this world. And there's love, and love resides in the world you came from, and the world you return to when you're done here. The same place, all right? So doubt falls underneath, does it fall underneath love? How could it?
No.
You don't come in doubting yourself. You don't come in, doubting anything. There's nothing the baby can't do. It has total confidence, okay? Doubt happens underneath fear. Fear is the master. It's the one that is the opposite of love. Everything else underneath that is doubt, is jealousy, is envy, it's everything of this world that we fall into negative stuff where we miss it, where we let this life defeat us, and we're not coming from our power, our true selves, okay? It's when we get lost over here that fear becomes amplified, and doubt is just one of those things. Fear happens when you forget who you are. Fear happens when you forget who you are, where you came from, who you really are. That's when fear happens. And every subcategory underneath fear is a product of fear. Okay, doubt, jealousy, envy, and all these kind of things.
Aren't all those
lack.
things? Yeah, lack. Aren't all those things you mentioned under the subcategories?
Right.
Aren't those all ego-based things?
They absolutely are. Yes. So anytime you feel your ego get invested, you're just fully into this world. You're just buying into the stuff that's going on here that keeps you lost. The who you were when you came here did not have ego invested intentions. You have an ego because you're in your body and you're here to survive. Your body wants to survive so you can see this life through. That's an ego. But it gets out of control. It dominates you. It dominates you and you don't exist anymore. No wonder you feel that void. You know something is not right.
Okay, so once you go back and examine your early life and you discover what this first fear was that started to knock you off course, that first fear may have influenced all the decisions you made after that point in your life. It did. Followed you, and you might be, in your 40s or 50s.
Yes.
Before you realize, wow, I'm not doing what I came here to do. That's the kind of itch that they get. They get that hole in their stomach.
Right.
And they feel a couple things. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Why am I not doing it?
What am I missing?
Yeah, what's missing in my life? And I feel I'm running out of time.
An indication of that when you feel that is if you find yourself in a relationship and that relationship feels so good, okay? And then before too long, that relationship gets old and you feel like something's missing. So you move on from that relationship only to find another one that feels pretty good. And then it doesn't take too long before they're not fulfilling your needs. Something is missing. And it keeps going on and on. You keep looking for someone better. Who you're looking for that's better is you. You're looking for the part of you that's missing, that better part of you. And you keep looking out there for it, and confusing it with where it really is, okay? Because until you have yourself and you know who that is, and you love who that is, you do things that other people might even say looks risky, all right? Because you're not afraid. You're not living in fear. You're living in that same feeling you had when you came here. You're living the life you intended. At least you're moving in that direction. You're not afraid, all right? You're a little cautious sometimes. I mean, sometimes you'll take and you'll do your research and slow down a little bit to make sure that you are on solid ground, but you're not afraid, okay? And that's a good balance between the world you came from and the world you're in, pulling them together, all right? Honoring who you are.
So we have some people on the line here that are first newcomers.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. And
Yes.
Jennifer asked, Jennifer Thomas, so how is it that you go back? maybe you could explain a little bit of how part 2 is laid out as a process. It's like taking baby steps.
How long has Jennifer been on with us?
Since the beginning.
Okay, great, Jennifer. So how do you go back?
Yeah, how do you go back?
Okay, here's what you do. First of all, get guided. Listen, read guided, whatever. It's available on Amazon, all right? And what Ray did last week, Ray took the journey, and I interviewed Ray last week. And it talks about where Ray couldn't go back to page 1 of part 2. He couldn't start there. He couldn't remember. So what he did is he went all the way to page 14, where his life started to blossom. And he could remember everything because things were working for him. I said, Ray, start writing there. And so he did. He started writing out what happened in his life at that time. And he wrote all the way through page 18. And when he was done, he just went, okay, now I'm ready to go back to page 1 because I remember what my first fear was now. Now I remember it. So until he remembered the really good part of his life when it started to work, and where he started to wonder about things that involved his initial coming here, when he was a new person, about what he felt then and where did it go? What happened? What happened back there? Could he go back to page 1 and fear? And he immediately identified what it was. And I'll tell you what, Jennifer, as soon as you identify what that is on page 1, do what Ray did. Go to a further part of the journal where it's comfortable for you to start remembering, okay? He started out with a good memory, all right? That's where he engaged in part 2. So when he went back to page 1, it's like he was on a roll. And he went back to page 1. He could then open up. He understood what it was taking for him to write out what was going on those 4 pages, 5 pages at the end. He was on a roll, and he could write out what happened on page 1. And once he was done writing out what happened on page 1, he could write out what happened on page 2. All right? And it just kept on showing up. And I'll tell you what, when he first started writing page 1, and then page 2, and those early parts of his life, Ray was angry. What it brought out in Ray was, you were angry.
I was angry because I was disappointed.
Disappointed. There's another one. Disappointment. Oh, tough one. And you're going to put it in here. You're only going to have to go through this one time, and you're going to have it on paper, all right? So that's the way you do it, Jennifer. And be sure to go to those videos we did. Those are going to really help you. Ray and I did a lot of work on preparing for those. So, and really making sure that you guys could get it, okay? But go to the part of the journal that agrees with you, that you can start writing from, that feels good. And go to that video that we did on that one and watch it before you start writing, so you make sure you're bringing out the information in the right way, in a way that's actually useful to you. Because I explain in the videos that if what you write in the journal in part 2, which is where you take the journey part, if what you write in there comes from emotion, and it comes from being a victim, if it comes from that, this will be no good to you. You've wasted your journal. But when you write in here, you come from knowingness, what you brought with you, and the truth. This is your truth center. This will tell you whether you're on the right track or not as you're writing in this journal. The truth is the truth. It is what just happened. It's just clarity. It doesn't have all this drama and trauma. You're not trapped in this jail of emotion and being a victim, being stuck back there when it happened, okay? You need to look at it like an adult, like your guides saw you when it happened, because they were there with you when it happened, and write it in there with clarity.
And they'll help you.
Oh, it makes all the difference in the world. You make sure when you're writing in this journal, your guides, you write in here like they were with you, because they were. And you write it in there and just start where it's comfortable before you go back to the first page, all right, to page 1. And when you do, you may feel some of these things. You may feel happy. It may be awesome what you feel until you hit page 3, or I don't know. You know, at some point you're going to feel that pow hit you, and you're going to go, well, you know, now that's explaining a lot. I see. You got to write it in there first before you can see it. Otherwise, you're still like this. You're still victimized by it. All right, traumatized by it. You can't help yourself when you're still in that muck and mire. You can't. Yeah.
So most of the people here are new, fairly new, or the first timers, and they haven't seen our other videos yet. Could you tell them a little bit about how the part 2 of the journal progresses? Like, it's not all about fear.
No.
It's
fear is the first one because it's where we get knocked off our path. You know,
that was the big thing.
And I learned that from living it. I learned it right here in Guided. Tell the story about how I learned this. All right. And when you read this or listen to this, it's on Amazon. You will understand why I know this. All right, and why I could lay this down for you guys.
Another thing about Guided, there's 137 lessons,
right,
and tips and awarenesses in Guided that are direct communication from her guides, along with a little paragraph about a commentary about what you learn and how you apply it.
Yeah, sprinkled throughout the book. In fact, when I thought I was done writing it, I said, Ray, I'm done writing the book. The guide started waking me up at 1 o'clock in the morning and keeping me up until about 3 or 4 o'clock those mornings. And that went on for a couple of weeks. And they said, start reading from the beginning of Guided, and we'll stop you where we want to drop these insights in. Okay, so it's like what happened in my life and the clarity I got at that point in time, at that age. Okay, that's why it'll help you when you write in your journal, because I start out real young when I start when I start writing in Guided. It covers my life from my first memories, which was, I'm going to say 1 year old. I mean, that's amazing. But I remember it, and I remember it because I met them so young. It changed my entire life. In fact, the first time I met them was when my mom almost killed me. I didn't expect to wake back up into this life.
This is when the nice policeman brought you home.
Yeah. And when this takes off from there. And when I woke up, I couldn't believe I was still here, and I was shocked to find myself here. It was the worst day of my life. And in that moment of despair, total shock, I asked for help. I asked out loud, someone help me. For some reason, it was a knee-jerk response. I just knew to ask. And when I did, they showed up all around me. And in an instant, I'm on all fours in a puddle of water. My mom probably threw on me to revive me. I don't know. And I looked up at them, and they just stood there, calm, looking at me. And they weren't concerned for me at all. They knew everything. I looked at them, and I saw what they saw when they looked at me. And I remembered everything. I remembered them. I remembered me. I remembered where I came from. And I remembered that the fact that this world, this life is not all there is, that I had nothing to be afraid of. And that's what launched my life. And that happened at 20 months old. But before that, the dream started, the merry-go-round dream that followed me for 35 years, that never changed. So this is why I know this, and this is why I have this memory that just defies reason. So it starts out, the journal, part 2, page 1. It starts out with fear, and then it goes into asking, which is exactly what I learned. I learned by, the first thing that hit me was horrendous fear. And in that fear, it was so tremendous, It pushed me through it in the moment that I asked for help and they all appeared. And that's the asking part, okay? So the fear and the asking, and then the friends, okay? What happened is you had these, people called them invisible friends, or they called them, they'd ask you, who are you talking to? They'd ask you, or they'd go, isn't that cute? They'd watch you playing with your toys and you'd be having this conversation. You were talking to your guides, okay? And you write in there what that was, okay? What it felt like, you knew at that time. That's who you were. That's who you brought with you. That's where your gifts and your talents reside, you guys. That's what you're supposed to be following in this life, all right? So the fear, there's the friends, and then our friendship grows. So your relationship with your guides is building. And then we become best friends. That's when you became your friend. They were so natural to you. These guides where you came from, who looks over you your entire life, your spirit guides, your angels. You became best friends. You became really comfortable with them. And then we did everything together. That's where your guides showed you things. They put things on your path, events, ideas, inspirations, just things that motivated you, that moved you to try new things. You tried everything. You played with everything. You tore things apart. You put it back together. Everything was an experiment to you. That was perfect, okay? So we did everything together as they pointed you. And, when they pointed you in a direction at that time, you just went there. You didn't think about, well, should I or shouldn't I? Or you didn't doubt yourself, and you weren't wrapped up in this world yet. You were still fresh from the other side. So you were just going with it. That was the natural urge, okay, that was driving you forward. And then and I'm on page 7, we always showed you new things. So they continue to show you new things, but you're starting to think that these new things are coming from you. Because the reason you feel like that is because this relationship you have with your guides is one of oneness. It's not where you feel separate. Like, that's me who came into this world, and this is me now. There's no separation, okay? So you're beginning to identify with this world a little stronger. So you're beginning to feel like maybe all this great information and this guidance is coming from you. You're not sure, because it's so natural that you feel this oneness, and that is really the truth. That's what it is, a oneness, until you start to feel separation kick in, right? You're just beginning to wonder about it at this point. And then on page 8, you become cautious. That's when people start asking you more and more, who are you talking to? Now they're reprimanding you. They're saying, you got to cut this stuff out. It's a little bit weird. And you're getting a little concerned about, how do you hold on to what's so important, what feels so good and natural to you? How do you throw it away? Because these people over here are telling you it's not okay. I mean, okay, so that's where that goes. And then there's the crossroads. And that's where you really are tired of fighting all the people here. Who are you talking to? Stop doing that. Wake up. Pay attention. All the things that they're trying to get you more present in this world is causing you to, now you're starting to feel like you have to push this part of you away. Like, it's not okay to have that and be in this world with everyone here. So you're making a major decision at the crossroads, and you're worried. You don't want to give up. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to do that. But for some reason, you feel the pressure to do that. And that leads to the next one, which is rebellion. And that's the pose. That's the little girl right here. That's the picture right there. Rebellion. now you're starting to dig your heels in because you're mad. You threw the baby out, and you're just stuck in this world. This is all you have now. You're stuck here by yourself. You're alone. You're mad. You didn't want to give that up. They didn't see what it was that they were really asking you to throw away. All right? And you're not happy about that. Okay, so then we get into page 11, and it's separation. Now you feel defeated. You know you're separate from something. You know something's missing. You know you let something go, and you really miss it, and you feel a void. Okay, separation, and then compromise. Now, since you're separate, you feel alone because you're just in this world, because you felt like you had to push your real self away and pretend none of that ever existed. Now you're beginning to bargain. You're beginning to figure out, okay, compromise. How do I really work this out? I feel like a fraud, but how do I get along? I guess, how do I,
fit in?
How do I fit in? Yeah. And you know that if you ever feel like you have to fit in, you missed it. You're missing something. You're missing you. So the compromise hits its, and then on page 13, the fear returns. Okay, so you went through this whole process only to get back to the fear that really happened on page 1, way back there, the first thing you can remember. But now it's a second try at it. Now it's a new cycle, all right? So the fear returns, and you're just before puberty, right there, maybe just at puberty, just right in there. And you feel everything is scaring you. Everything. You now, are you pretty enough? Do you have enough Facebook friends? Are you popular enough? Are you smart enough? Pretty? Are you all the things that you feel you lack? Fear, lack, doubt, envy, jealousy, everything that makes no sense at all. It's got a hold of you. And then the search begins. This is the page that Ray started on, where he could really connect. And he said, as a teenager, this is when the search begins. This is when he started reading a lot of self-help books as a teenager. And at the same time, his musical career took off. He cut his first record when he was 12 years old. Get out. I mean, that he had a great start there. And that got him over that early fear that he experienced when he was a little boy. And it just changed his life, gave him a new direction. So this was where he chose to start writing. So the search begins. You get to the point where you go, nobody knows who I am. They don't believe in me. I can't go on like this. I don't expect them to care about what I feel and what I know and what I feel is missing. I'm just going to start looking for what I missed, what's missing in my life. And so you start looking.
That's the point where you realize that everything that people have taught you and told you and what you've learned in school and how
you question it.
You start questioning it. That can't be right. That can't be right. It doesn't work.
Right. And everything you've done up to that point, where you compromised and you felt the separation and the crossroads and the rebellion and all the things that hit you before, it was the first pass. So you were caught off guard. And you really didn't know how to put it together. But this second go around, when the fear returns, and now we're into the third page into that, questioning everything. That now we're on page 15, questioning everything. The search begins, questioning everything. Now you start getting answers that make some sense. Your life starts to make some sense because you start to question everything. You're not just blindly believing everything that you've been told to believe, type of thing. That's what Ray was talking about. And then time alone. This is page 16, where time alone used to be terrifying for you. Now you enjoy it. You want it. You bring it on. You love it. You read more books. Your search has begun. The time alone. You're looking inside. You're learning so much. And whatever you do, you're writing in your journal. That's critical. At this time alone becomes your own self-discovery. This is where, in the front of this book, it says, and I can't hardly read that.
My guided journey of self-discovery and personal transformation.
That's right. And this time alone is what will reveal that. That's when you start to really come back. Okay? So time alone. And then we're almost there. Page 17. We have been waiting for you to be ready. Now, this is your guides talking to you, waiting for you to be ready. Time alone, everything you've been through, you're finally ready. And they're there. They haven't gone anywhere. When you pushed them away, you pushed yourself away, you pushed them away at the same time. But they haven't gone anywhere. You pushed them away, and they respect that. They will never impose on you. And you have free will in this life. This is your life. But they haven't gone anywhere. They've been patiently waiting for you to be ready. And that's what that means. And that's when you realize that they've been there. You write in there what happened, what that felt like. And page 18, the last page of part 2, you are not alone. As you move forward in your life from now on, with this foundation, having written in all these pages, in page 1 through 18, having written in all these pages, revealing what really happened back there, not from an emotional victim standpoint. That will not serve you. But from a knowingness and the truth. Listen to this. This tells the truth. This always lets you know it's your alarm. And you are not alone. You are on your way. Now you are living the life you intended. After page 18, and you have this all documented, this is so valuable. Now you are at the point, page on part 3. This is the journaling part. You finished the journey in part 2. This is the journaling part. This is where you journal what happens in your day-to-day life. Like, for example, and you can print as many of these pages out as you need, you guys. It's a PDF. You print out as many of these pages and keep them in your journal. Just load your journal up so you've got plenty of room in there to write out what's going on the minute it happens. I will tell you this. You take the journey first. You've got to do that first. You've got to, it gets you realigned in the right energy so that you can, as you move forward, come from a more intelligent and able, present person, okay? Not somebody who's been waylaid from this life and you're still just being whipped around, okay? You've got to get yourself back first. And you start journaling, like, let's say you had a dream. You write the dream in here. And then you write what it felt like when you had that dream. It's got all the little questions here to make sure that you have all the juicy details right here. After doing the journey, taking the journey in part 2, you're going to know how to write. You will have mastered what it takes to write. So when you get to your journal part, you will be writing it from the right perspective. And again, not from being a victim. You're going to be able to see things for what they are and write them down the way they really happened, not from the way you took them personally. If you're taking any of this personally, any of the things that you write in here, and you're writing it from a personal, taking it personal point of view, you missed it. So it'll be no good to you at all if that's what you're doing. And part 2, page 1 through 18, is going to break you out of that habit. All right? So when you write in here, you're writing your dreams in here. You're writing what happened. In fact, you're going to have this journal tethered to you. You'll take it with you in the car. You're driving to work or you're going somewhere. Boom. You got this insight. It didn't come from you. You know your own thoughts. It didn't come from you. You write it in there. Write it in there before it dissipates, because that's what will happen. And date it. Always, always date it. And keep it in order. Keep it in chronological order in your journal, page after page. so they never go out of sync. Okay, you want to keep them in order. I only printed 2 of these pages, but you print as many of these as you need, and you're going to need a lot of them, all right? So you keep it in order, and let's say you're in the shower, and you're taking a great shower. All of a sudden, you get a great idea just popped in your head, and you know what? The minute you jump out of the shower, you're going to forget it. You are, just like you always do. How are you going to remember what just came through so you can write it into your journal and not lose it and date it and follow this? You're going to say it 3 times out loud. You're going to say it 3 times out loud, whatever that was. So when you step out of the shower, you're not going to lose it, and you're going to get this journal and you're going to write it in there, soaking wet. You're going to write it in there. So you do not lose it, all right? If you follow this, like I'm telling you to follow this, within 1 month of writing in your journal part 3, you're going to look back on the things that you've journaled, all the way from the first one to the one that you're at through that whole month, and you're going to discover a lot. You're going to go, oh my God, I see it now. I see what I should be doing. I see where I should be going. I know what's going on with me. I know what's going on with the people around me. It's obvious. But all this information you're writing in here did not come from you. It didn't. It came from your guides. And it's because you've got this connection again. You built the bridge back. You're now living in both worlds. You're not separate. You're not disconnected. Okay? You're connected. And that's what this journal will do.
Yeah, you'll be surprised after a month how much,
just 1 month,
how much guidance actually comes through all the time.
Oh,
and a lot of it in the past, you missed it. Maybe you had a gut feeling. Guys call it a gut feeling. You know, women tend to call it intuition. We call it gut feeling because it's more macho. You know.
That's right.
But you're surprised at how much comes through and how easily it comes through, and you realize a couple of things, that all those great ideas that came through weren't yours.
That's right. And you know, that's what happens. Over here is your ego. Your ego wants to believe it came from you. It wants to own it. It wants to be in control. That's where you get messed up. So when you know you can soften that and settle that down just enough, just breathe and release that need to be right, smart, the best, whatever it happens to be. That ego wants it so badly. Release that. And let this come through. This comes through. This never shouts. This is very subtle. This shouts. It's very loud. It's abrasive, all right? You'll know the difference between the two, all right? And you will catch yourself going into your ego. You will. You'll still catch yourself doing it because it took a lot of ego for you to survive to get to this point. You were hanging on with your bloody fingernails, just getting to this point in your life, okay? Just realize that's what really, how it served you and got you where you are. You're still here, you guys. You're good. You just have to bring this back into one instead of the separation. And it's no wonder you're scared and feel alone. Anybody would. I honestly, people have asked me, they go, but Linda, you know, I'm so scared. I mean, I don't know how to let go of this, but I'm so scared. And I don't even understand it. I mean, how in the heck did they make it this far, or anybody make it this far, thinking this was all there is, this world? It scares me to think that any of you got this far with just that. Really. Okay? So it's really no wonder people are confused and thrown off base. No wonder the world is in chaos. They feel scared. They feel alone. And it's just not true.
They're never alone.
This will heal it, you guys. This journal will heal it. And we did all those videos. We've got 20 hours of videos we did to get you there. And we continue to do these on Thursdays to answer your questions, okay? When you start writing in your journal and do your journey first and your journal, we're here to help you with your dreams. We're here to help you understand what's going on your journey. And in your journal. We're here to help you with that.
Okay. Next week,
Same.
we're going to be on part 2, page 2.
Yeah, we're going to work
And
together.
that's the ask part. And that's how to, we're going to teach them the proper way to ask for help from their guides.
Okay, here's what I want you guys to do. How many do we have on right now, Ray?
We had 5 or 6.
Okay, what I want you guys to do is I want you to write in the journal wherever you feel comfortable starting, like Ray started on page 14. I want you to start there. And wherever you start, we're going to work with you from that point, okay? That's where we're going to start helping you, wherever that comfort zone is for you. Because you've got to start where you can start writing and telling it like it happened and letting it out. I mean, to go, and then when it's time to go back and look into the deeper part, the earlier parts of your life, it really won't be that hard to do. It really won't be. But you'll have immediate reactions, like Ray's immediate reaction to page 1 of part 2. The immediate feeling he had was anger. Okay, it's okay. He wrote it out. He was angry. That's right. That would make sense that you'd get angry. And why you have anger to this day, or why you feel sad to this day. Why you, okay, let's say you're overweight, for example. Why are you overweight? Why? That doesn't make any sense. You know, when we gain weight, it's like building a protection. It's like in dream symbols. When you're overweight in a dream, it doesn't mean that you're fat and all that. That's judgment. That's this world. What it really means, with the truth of what it means that you are insulating yourself from getting hurt, from other people getting too close to you and hurting you like they did before, a long time ago. You got to write it in here, you guys. You got to put it in here, because until we find it, you can't heal it. You can't heal it. And if you can't heal it, you can't bring it together, and you can't live the life you intended and be the powerful person you really are, okay?
Okay, so next Thursday.
Next Thursday, yep.
Same place, same time?
Same time, yep.
Same 2 people doing this?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Yep, and we'll
Good to see a lot of the new faces.
Yes, very good. And be sure to start your journal and let us work with you next week, okay? Don't be afraid.
Bye-bye.